Fascinating opinion, but I'm Egyptian and I'm not delusional, and you're wrong. In fact, my grandfather reached a pretty high position with the Egyptian military, one of the few Coptic people to do so. Second off, USA didn't start supplying Israel until after the Six-Day War, and my late uncle, who served in the 67 War and the 73 War, disagrees with you. Side note, every war that the Arabs have waged since 1967 has been an attempt to wash away the humiliation of the Six-Day War. You remember when Israel took Arab cheeks and made it clap like a Syrian wedding? Yeah, that. First off, the Arabs were equally supplied by the Soviet Union, and y'all still lost. Israel faced an arms embargo from France and the UK after the Six-Day War, and y'all still lost in 73. So here's my suggestion for the Arabs. Be honest with yourselves. For once, be honest with yourselves. Just admit that your armies are largely incompetent and that you got outmaneuvered by a smarter group of people. Take the L and move on with your life. It's been damn near 100 years, and y'all still can't get over this. Y'all lost. Get the over it.
Welcome to another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments. Of course, for all of your real estate needs in South Florida, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Rafi the Realtor. Also, make sure to check out my weekly newsletter, which can be found in the link in bio. You can send me a DM. If you have my contact info already, you can reach out to me. You can also advertise with me on my newsletter. I have about 2,600 people on my list, always adding new people. So if you want to get in touch with me about marketing, would love to do that with you as well as on this podcast. Without further ado, we have the man, the myth, the legend, somebody who's becoming very prominent on social media, Coptic Zionist. He is a Copt. For whoever doesn't know what a Copt is, because some of you closed-minded peoples don't exactly know, but we're going to educate you today. He is a pro-Israel Copt, a man of Egyptian heritage. He has been putting out videos for quite some time, completely unfiltered, doesn't give a solitary fuck about who likes what he has to say and who doesn't. Without further ado, we have the man himself on the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So he woke up very early today. He's in California, so he woke up at 6 in the morning, and he's here to do this pod. I was surprised, but he's an early bird, and he wants to get things done early on a Sunday.
I am.
So we're here. So, dude, thank you for joining me. We're gonna have a great discussion. I've seen a lot of your videos on Instagram, and I should have reached out sooner because I really like what you have to say, but better late than never. So give us before we get into the politics, the current geopolitics of things, give us a little bit of a rundown on, say, the last couple of years prior to your social media stardom and how you develop these views. You mentioned that your dad would like to meet me, being my idea of service. So I take it he shares similar opinions. So how did this come to be? Say, take me back maybe the last 2-3 years.
So 2-3 years. I mean, first
I can go further than that, whatever works.
Yeah. So, I've only been Zionist for a little over a year. Prior to that, for the previous, I want to say, nearly 20 years, I think 17 or 18 years, I was an advocate for the Palestinian cause. I mean, I wasn't always super active all throughout those, years. You take pauses because, when you're doing any sort of activism, it does take a toll on you mentally. It takes a lot out of you. But I was always a strong advocate for the Palestinian cause, and that all started happening around the time when I had finished high school and I was entering college. By this time, I had lived in California for maybe a year and a half, I had moved there from Massachusetts. And when I was living in Massachusetts, I felt like I was the only Egyptian there. Like, felt pretty isolated. The only contact I would ever really have with even other Egyptians was when I would go to a Coptic Orthodox church. And the closest one to us was like an hour and 15 minutes away. And most of the community tends to live around the church. So didn't have much of an opportunity to connect with them, sort of always felt like a black sheep. Just there was just this disconnect from me and them. So I didn't really have a whole lot of, I didn't know how to value that identity. And, at home, you're speaking Arabic. Um, we lived pretty close by my grandparents who we brought over here, and I could only communicate to them in Arabic. So Arabic became sort of a big part of my life. And not really knowing anybody with that upbringing, being first generation American to Arabic speaking parents, then going to California, finishing school. And keep in mind, I went to California um, like towards the end of high school. So I had sort of like a social life that I like left behind in Boston. And in Boston, I was super naive about the conflict. Like I never heard, like my parents never spoke about it. Um, but so then finishing high school in California and entering college, that is when I started meeting a lot of like Arabic speaking people. I say Arabic speaking people because when you think about it realistically, Egyptians and Lebanese, they're not Arab. We're not ethnically Arab. You can say we're culturally we've been Arabized, but we're not Arab. But I know that, Palestinian Christians and Syrian Christians, they do support that pan-Arab ideology. So there is a difference. But so anyway, I started meeting all these Arabic speaking people. And it was the first time where I had felt like, oh wow, I have like a community. These people have a shared upbringing, similar upbringing to mine. Their parents, either they moved here with their parents or their parents were immigrants and then they were born here. And they sort of grew up similar to me, where they felt like, I'm too Middle Eastern for the Americans. Maybe I'm too American for a lot of the Middle Easterns. But the thing that really stood out to me was the Palestinian narrative, right? It was really the first real exposure I had to it. I remember like the year prior, one of my cousins was visiting from college up north in Northern California. And he had mentioned something about Palestine, right? I think like we were watching something about a celebrity, and my cousin Mark said, "Oh, that guy's pro-Palestine." I can't remember who the celebrity was, but and it was, I don't know, it stood out when I first started meeting Arabs, that moment. Um, and so anyway, I was taught this narrative that everybody was getting along prior to 1948, and then the Zionists, aka the Yahud, the Jews, showed up and just kicked everybody off the land, and that is why we have all the problems. Um, and I didn't really have anything to counter that other than my parents, right? And my parents despised the Palestinian cause. I mean, you know, my dad in particular, man, if you put my dad in a room with Mir Kahana and you like got a transcript of the conversation and redacted the names, you wouldn't know which one was speaking. Like they're that similar, you know. um, but like my dad, both I grew up with both my parents saying, you can't trust them. They had mentioned it like here and there, not a lot, but like anytime like I heard my parents talk about it with their friends, it was they did this and that. You can't trust them. They're trying to tear down the entire region. And my parents hold similar views about Islam, um, being that they're Coptic and they came from Egypt. They personally did not have horror stories, but almost every single one of their friends did that came from Egypt. And so my parents saw the Palestinian cause being intimately tied in with Islam. And naive and arrogant me could not see that in my mind, because I grew up in, liberal Massachusetts, and then I went to liberal California. Okay, and um naive, arrogant me was like, no, you're wrong. You're racist, mom and dad. You guys are hateful bigots, and how can you say this about people? And like, I dug myself further and further in, and my parents, they gave me a limited amount of freedom in my life. And one of those few bastions of freedom that I had in my life was that I could sort of think for my own. I could hold my own opinions. I wouldn't they would rag on me in private about it. They would rag on me in front of their friends about it, but they're not gonna try to stop me from like hanging out with my friends and talking about this stuff and being a part of this. I think in their heads, they saw it as this. Okay, well, he's not going out getting into trouble. He's not getting arrested. He's not, he's going to class and all this, and he's not doing drugs. I did do drugs, all with my Muslim and Arab friends, by the way. Just they were wrong on that one. Um, but I mean, once you're in, you're in. And because I'd already had this Arabic speaking background, it's different from when they're trying to recruit somebody who's actually like, Western, like American or European, non-Middle Eastern specifically,
Mhm.
because the extremism, you start to get conditioned to the extremism early. Whereas I think with like a more Western audience, they try to really hold off on digging too deep into that. But so what I mean is, I remember one of the first interactions I had with a Palestinian that I can remember that was about specifically about politics and Israel Palestine. I was talking to this older Palestinian gentleman. I was probably like 17, 18. He must have been in his early 30s. And I was just sort of, this is my naive self, and I am bouncing my ideas off him. And his answers are not moderate at all. They are as extreme as it gets. I remember the first question was like, okay, but we want a two-state solution, right? We just want to live in peace side by side. It's a struggle, but that's what everybody wants. And the guy was like, no, absolutely not. One Palestinian state, they have to leave. I was like, oh, wow. And then I asked him, I was like, but hurting civilians, like, harming civilians, that's wrong. And then he said, there's no such thing as an Israeli civilian. They all serve in the IDF. They're all, settlers, squatters, colonizers. In Arabic, it's Steltanin, so we said it in Arabic.
Mhm.
Um, and then the third one, and I am desperate for a moderate answer at this point. I'm really desperate to hear like a normal response. And so I went with something that I thought would automatically has to be a moderate response to this. And I asked him, okay, but suicide bombing is obviously wrong, right? And like, didn't skip a second. He just looked at me straight in the face, like I'm looking at you right now. And he's like, Habibi, this is all we have. And, I've had moments like, that was the first moment where sort of alarm bells went off in my head. Um, and I had moments like that since then over the course of nearly 20 years of advocating for the Palestinian cause. But at that moment, I was like, well, eventually they'll moderate. You sort of go into it thinking, well, they can't all be like this. They can't all think like this. You start to rationalize it. You really like it's incredible what the human brain will do to rationalize insanity. Um, but anyway, I think for most people who are, have a conscience and like a decent sense of right and wrong when they go into this, they think that, oh, well, maybe I can moderate them and they'll evolve on their position. There's this very idyllic expectation. But the opposite is always what happens. It's actually you that becomes an extremist. Because if you are constantly surrounded by people who are using extreme language, and they're, the Yahud, the Sahina, the Jews and the Zionists, and it's eventually going to take a hold of you. And that's exactly what it did to me, you know? In the beginning, they do play it, sort of subtle. It is the Zionist, it's the Zionist, the Zionist. But then when you hang out with sort of like the older generation or the generation that moved here from there, it's Yehud, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. They really stop saying that, and that's really what they say behind closed doors. Although today, not so subtle anymore. But for me, back then, around circa 2007, 2008, it was a little bit, it was slightly more subtle. But yeah, it stayed like that. And to do this, I lost nearly every single one of my friends. And but like, I mean, my friends that I lost were literally from those years, like 2008, 2007. Some of these people I had known for nearly 20 years. Um, so it was easy to stay in that echo chamber, right? And not just an echo chamber, but it's sort of this um, ideological enclave. And but you are like, if you're not an Arab Muslim and you're supporting the Palestinian cause, there is a de facto totem pole, right? And you are gonna eat shit in ways that you don't understand quite yet. You are gonna be told insanity and be asked to suspend your intelligence, your integrity, your humanity to justify crazy shit. And so I remember around 2010, I think it was 2010, heading into the new year of 2011, there was this bombing at a Coptic church in Egypt. And it was, I mean, it was one of the worst ones, and it was horrible. I can't remember how many dead, but it was like, it was huge. And so I started posting about that stuff. I started speaking about it. And then I remember, like, maybe a day or two after, when I saw my friends again, they're like, yeah, man, that's really messed up. But you know what? It's probably the Zionists doing it to try to create division between the oh yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, like, that is the go-to. That is the go-to. And there are some Arab Christians that are so conditioned to that shit that that will be their go-to, you
Yeah.
know? So, but like, I remember like hearing that shit and I was like, these people are fucking idiots. Like, you couldn't get me to believe it for 1 second. Um, but yeah, so they say, oh, it's the Zionists trying to create fitna between the Christians and Muslims. Fitna means strife, distress. And so after that, shortly after that, the Arab Spring had happened. And what the Arab Spring did was, whatever social group you had within the Arab Muslim community, there were these invisible fault lines that you didn't understand. And they were always there, but you didn't recognize it. So when the Syrian civil war came about, it was made more clear than ever, because most Arab Sunnis supported the opposition in Syria, while any religious minority supported the Assad regime, because for them it was the lesser of two evils. If you ask anybody from an Arabic Christian Arab Christian family, or a religious minority that is dominated by Sunnis, they will tell you a military dictatorship, as bad as it is, far better than an Islamist dictatorship. Um, and that's sort of when I went with it. So, automatically those fault lines come to the surface, and you stop being close to some other people. But the one thing that is constant is the Palestinian cause. It doesn't matter if you're on the opposition, it doesn't matter if you're pro-Assad, and they will both use the Palestinian cause to delegitimize the other side. So one of the ways the pro-Assad camp did it was that they would say, oh, well, and this is I'm just going to give you a introduction to Arab conspiracy theories. um, they will say, oh, well, look, ISIS never attacks Israel. It must be because Israel supports ISIS, right? That's what the pro-Assad people will say. And then um, the opposition will say that, oh, well, the Assad regime has never, hasn't fired a single bullet past the Golan Heights into Israel for the last however many years. They are clearly working with the Israelis. It couldn't possibly be that the Israelis could just wipe the floor with both parties and none of them
Mhm.
want the smoke, right? It's just, it has to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
it has to be conspiratorial thinking. Um,
I think of a guy, man. I'm telling you, I have a get you. I gotta send you one of them because I recorded two episodes. I'll send you the one where we had a one-on-one because you know this guy Mansour, the Druzy Israeli.
oh yeah, I actually had a interview with him. One of I think probably the first interview I ever had.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, dude, love that guy. Loved. I haven't even met him yet. I can't wait to meet him. So we had a fantastic conversation. We had a debate with this Druze American Lebanese guy. You got to hear this. You got to hear this stuff. Then I had a one-on-one with the Druze Lebanese guy. He's pro Hezbollah, pro Iran, hates Israel, hates Zionists, whatever.
Yeah.
We have this weird like frenemy related. Like we have this weird friendship. It's like I don't like him, but like I know that if we didn't have these disagreements, we'd probably be pretty cool, sort of thing.
What's his name, if you don't mind me asking?
Kareem Gaeta.
Ah, no. I know a
He doesn't
Lebanese
really
Jew.
have he doesn't have a social media presence. He's like a low
Ah,
key guy.
okay.
He just likes to debate with pro Israel content creators. He likes to just DM them and whatever. Not as stupid in terms of his knowledge on things. You can tell he's not. He knows things. It's just that all of his opinions are blinded by anti-Jewish conspiracy theory, all of it, and he pretty much blames everything that's gone wrong in the world on Jews. It's crazy. Like he doesn't give the Arabs, Muslims responsibility for anything. It's always the Jews conspired and da 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 da.
Hmm. Oh
So,
yeah.
wait,
Par for the course, man.
what happened?
I said par for the course.
Yeah, but dude, I had a great one-on-one. Everything he tried to throw at me, I had a response for
Mm.
everything, and then it all went in one ear and out the other. It's like everything I told him, he would repeat the same questions. He would repeat the same talking points in my DMs because me, him, and Mansoor are in like a three-way chat that he started. And I'm just like, did you not hear anything I told you in the one-on-one? Like none of it, none of it. Just repeats the same thing. What were we talking about before? What was the last point you were making? It slipped my mind.
I think I was
Uh,
pointing
Mop the.
we were sort of wrapping up the whole Syria thing. I was just saying that it was like that. The Palestinian cause never takes a break, no matter what side you're
Yeah.
on sort of like any sort of internal crisis within an Arab country. Both sides will exploit the Palestinian cause to try to get support from either side.
Mhm.
Um, but so that was that for a while, and I always thought, oh, like my friend, like these people are gonna be at my wedding when I get married. These people are gonna, celebrate me when I have my first child. Like that's how I viewed these friendships. Um, but the last, and so something crazy, right? And I actually just confessed to this yesterday, although I told other people this previously, was that in 2021 I actually converted to Islam.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, yeah. I've never been a religious person, right? I think in the time where you could call me a Muslim, I went like 12 times to the mosque in like 3 years, I'd say. Like 12 times, never fasted Ramadan or anything. For me, I probably was trying to fill somewhat of a spiritual void, but for me, ideologically, Islam made more sense because the hatred of Jews in Israel is basically enshrined in Islam. And I think anybody who denies this is really like either trying to lie to you or trying to lie to themselves. And so when it's one thing to be a pro-Palestinian extremist. It's another thing to do it when you're Muslim, when you have that social circle. Because if you think it's extreme with the pro-Pallies, you're going to see another side of extremism that is going to like, you have two options. It's a fight or flight response, right? You can, or fight or be stuck paralyzed. You can either say, hell no, hell no, this is insane, or you can go with it. And, thank God I said this shit is insane. But like, it's it's one of the worst. It is the worst decision I ever made in my life. I'm not saying, listen, like, and this is what I want to say. I don't hate every individual 1.8 billion Muslims. I think, anybody who watches me understands that I don't individually hate 1.8 billion Muslims. I do despise Islam, and I don't feel the need to sugarcoat that at all. Right? I can have respect for an individual, but the collective is horrible. And the way violence is so easily legitimized was like insane to me. But anyway, let's focus on, how I became a Zionist. So immediately after, like the day of October 7th, I remember the night before is when I started like seeing, oh, there's some shit going on in Israel. Didn't really think anything of it. Like I was like, I went to sleep, and I woke up, and then like the news blew up about what was happening. And my group chat blew up about what was happening. And we're saying like, oh, if they manage to kill this many Israelis, then holy shit, this is great. Right? Like that's your mindset because you think, hey, every Israeli is guilty. There is no such thing as an innocent Israeli. You've been taught this for so long that like you don't have to think about it even twice. Like that was your mind's natural response. But then as the weeks went on and the information trickled in, man, you find out that they raped women. You find out that they like tied people to trees and mutilated their bodies and set them on fire, shooting dogs, kidnapping families, raping women, mutilating bodies, like castrating men and stuff. And like your mind can't wrap around it, right? Like I mean, you can, but it's like, and it's sort of fucked up. But the first thing you think about is how do you spin this? How do you take this information and prevent it from completely breaking your cause and your narrative? Because this looks horrible. This is one of the worst crimes of the 21st century. I mean, we haven't seen scenes like I've seen scenes out of Iraq during the Iraqi Civil War after the US invasion in 2003. That to this day, that is the only thing that I can compare October 7th to. It was like, and anybody who has seen footage from that time period in Iraq knows what I'm talking about. It is the most bloodthirsty, just oh, like I get it. It's crazy to think about.
Well, ironically, you see Arabs doing it to other Arabs. You seldomly see Arabs doing it to Westerners, though I wouldn't call Israelis Westerners at all, but I mean people of a first world country, a true civilized society. I would go further to say Muslim on non-Muslim violence you typically don't see to that degree. Um, or
Not at all.
unless it's in a Muslim majority country. I mean, like Israel is a majority Jewish state. For example, Muslims in London slaughtering thousands of people, kidnapping thousands, because we're talking about equivalence here, right? So
Mhm.
London has or England has a much larger population than Israel, so that would amount to them kidnapping thousands versus 250. They'd be killing probably tens of thousands in an equivalent, number. We wouldn't know what to do with that. We wouldn't know what to do with that. And I can tell you one thing is the United States would go absolute batshit crazy in response. England, seeing how England handles things, would probably do fucking nothing. So would France. The response would probably be pathetic. But America under Trump, oh boy. Woo. I don't know. I don't think that country would exist, whatever that country is. It got, well, imagine Gazans somehow did that to the United States in the United States.
Oh, dude, it would imagine they did that to an Arab country.
Well, 100%.
Imagine October 7th happened to Egyptians. Oh,
Oh, forget.
there would be no Gaza left. Like
Oh, 100%. The entire
Egypt gave
place would be
chemical weapons.
the entire
Egypt gave
dude,
chemical
it would
weapons
be
in Yemen.
completely destroyed. Every living thing, all the plants would be completely decimated. The whole plane would be, and nobody would be, and by the way, there would be people talking shit about Egypt, but the amount of international protests would be a smidge compared to what they are now with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, ah, it's in the Middle East, Arabs killing each other. The fuck do I care?
Yeah.
Barely anybody would be saying a damn thing. You'd have maybe some people coming out in the streets, and maybe in the Middle East somewhere, but the Arabs wouldn't care. Why? Because the Palestinians, to most Arabs, are at the bottom of the totem pole of Arab society. So as long as the Jews aren't involved, it wouldn't matter much. It'd be like, oh, well, that's a shame, but whatever.
That's exactly it. I mean, listen, if you take in, I mean, even if you take the current war into consideration and you count up the dead throughout the entirety of the Arab-Israeli conflict, it's like the Syrian civil war by itself beats it.
Oh yeah.
That's not to mention the Iran-Iraq war. That's not to mention the civil wars in Lebanon and the one that, almost happened in Jordan when the Jordanian king had to, I think take out like 30,000 of them and kick them out into Lebanon. Like
Mhm.
it's just ridiculous.
Pakistan and India. Pakistan was
Yeah.
established in I believe 1947 and 1948. There were like 7 million displaced, or maybe I don't, I'm not sure. I forget the number, but whatever it was, uh, hundreds of thousands to maybe a million people died, if not more. The numbers are staggering compared to Israel. No one knows about this. No one knows about this.
And I will make,
It's completely unknown to the world. Nobody knows. Nobody cares.
I will plug this
Pakistan.
in. I will plug this in to anybody who is listening. Man, Industry of Lies by Ben Dror Yemeni, amazing book. All this stuff talked about. And it like I recommend anybody who's really serious about the concept, you have to buy that book.
Mhm. Okay, so let me ask a couple of more questions. So you switched over to the pro-Israel side. I'm sure your parents, your dad is probably pretty happy.
Very.
Okay. What did he tell you when you started to shift your views? This is a good question. I was thinking. When you started to shift your views, what did he sat in the room with you and he's like, I knew you would come around. What did he
He's
say?
like, he's like, because he speaks more English now, he loves being American. He's like, you're finally over that dumb shit.
Is that what he said?
And he's like, you're finally over that dumb shit, but you still look like a terrorist. Because I usually have a you know, pretty decent beard going on,
Yeah, yeah.
which he's not a huge fan of. But him and I, like nowadays when we meet up, it's just so much more enjoyable. Actually, I've only mentioned this like once or twice, but my dad, he was actually, a few weeks after October 7th, because my dad saw the thing. I think my mom told my dad the things that I was posting about. My mom and dad aren't together anymore, but they
Mm.
keep a pretty cordial relationship. And so I think she probably asked my dad to talk to me, you know? And my dad, whenever we went to get lunch together, and he sat me down, he just said straight up, listen, I'm really worried about you. You have to realize that these people are monsters. They raped, they kidnapped, they slaughtered people. This is, they killed people like their Daesh, which, for those who don't know, is the Arab acronym for ISIS. And he said he was worried about me because he's worried that, I'm going to get involved in something that could really hurt me in the future. Whether he meant that professionally or anything otherwise, I don't know. It was a little bit ambiguous, but he was really worried about me. And I just kind of like thank God for that moment, man, because I think hearing that from him sort of softened me for everything else that I was about to experience. So later, my dad met with me in the month of October, the month it happened. And later on that month, I was in San Diego with my then girlfriend and our friends. And I remember we're at a red light and we're just waiting for the light to go green so we can walk across. And there's this thing in front of me. I can't remember what it was, but it had posters of the hostages. And I'm looking at the posters of the hostages. I can't remember which hostage I was looking at, but I'm looking at it. And all I can think about in my mind are those videos of those, I think it was in New York. People were literally defacing the posters of hostages. And I think I don't know, I can't remember which poster I was looking at, but I remember the poster that got defaced in New York. I think it was actually of kids, like kids. And in that moment where I'm looking at that poster, it felt like the blood in my veins evaporated. Maybe that moment lasted for like 10 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. And I remember telling myself, you might be a piece of shit, but you're not such a piece of shit that you would do this. But then, suppress that moment, go on with the night. I was partying, so I didn't think about it too much longer after that. Um, and then a few months later, I remember I had another moment where I would find myself questioning things. Um, and it was, who Andrew Tate is. You know who Andrew Tate is?
Of course.
Yeah. So, that dude was on trial for sex trafficking and everything. And I've seen all his videos. So I've seen this dude literally confess to him saying, yes, I do this to traffic women. Yes, I do the lover boy method, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And my Muslim friends, this group that I'm a part of, um, they all embraced him when he converted to Islam, right? Like really, really, and I thought it was so disgusting. Like it was just, oh, like how could you embrace such a human being?
It's also not even genuine, dude. He's doing it for strategy because it gives him gives him a party that'll support him in his court cases and trials. It allows him to keep these views, and there are people who are going to support him because it's good for them. Through Andrew, a lot more people will convert, but it's fake and it's not. And I don't think the guy gives any sort of a shit
No.
about religion to begin with. Definitely doesn't care about a specific religion. He's telling British people now that they have to stay true to themselves because Islam's going to take over. He doesn't care, but that's nonsense. Nonsense.
In a way, it's sort of like the ultimate karma. So I can't even be too mad about the outcome at that. But I remember at the moment,
You're saying with England,
no, no, no,
or
I
you're
mean
saying
with
with
like the
Andrew?
Muslims that are getting mad right now because Andrew Tate turned out to sort of not be a legit Muslim. Like he just did
Oh
it
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of people that came are going to end up leaving it. It's a
Of
ridiculous.
course, he
It's so crazy how easy it is to convert to Islam. I could become Muslim today in 2 seconds by saying two sentences. Meanwhile, it
Mhm.
takes you years to convert to Judaism. It's like
Years.
it's such a cheap. It's just so easy to join it, and then you join it, and it's too. Once you leave it, yeah, it's not the same. It's really, really very different.
Man, Judaism is like applying for citizenship in another country. It's it's intense. I looked into it a little bit, but
Yeah,
um,
I mean, listen, you can do it.
yeah,
I'll tell you one thing though. If you had a keep on, I don't. You wouldn't look at a place. You would definitely fit in.
I have one in my car.
Yeah. No, I
I
wouldn't
have
look
one. Yeah.
if you came into into a shul or a beit knesset, as we say. I wouldn't look at you and be like, oh, this guy looks out of place. I'd be like, oh, okay. I would expect you to probably speak Hebrew though. I'd be a little surprised if I didn't know you and you didn't speak Hebrew. I'd be like, oh, I was surprised.
Reketzet.
There we go.
So anyway, um, I bring up Andrew Tate because I remember being so disgusted by the mental gymnastics that my Muslim friends were doing to justify being Andrew Tate supporters. What it really boiled down to was they care more about this Muslim sex trafficker than they care about his non-Muslim victims. And I found that to be disgusting. But then Andrew Tate started supporting Gaza like a month or so into it. And I remember it was one of those moments where I was like, ah, shit. I'm on the same side of things as this guy, and I'm hearing his rationale for things. And it reminds me of the rationale that I use. And my immediate thought process was, oh, I'm doing exactly what my Muslim friends were doing. I am caring more about these Palestinian terrorists than I'm caring about their victims. That's what I'm doing. I care more about, you know, these Palestinian terrorists than their dead Jewish victims. And I am doing the most obscene mental gymnastics to present this cause as a legitimate cause, as a cause that isn't bloodthirsty.
Mhm.
And then, it's little moments like that, man. Like if you have a conscience, it'll chip away at you. If you haven't completely lost your humanity, it'll chip away at you. And then you get really disgusted by their behavior. I never went to protests. I mean, not like in this for this current war. I went to, I think, two protests. I went to one in 2014 and I think one in 2009. I'm not completely sure about that one. But I always thought the protests were stupid.
Something happened with your mic, by the way. It suddenly sounds a little more distant than it did.
Might have to switch out the mic.
Okay. Oh, you got the DJIs too, man, huh?
Yeah, man, it's worth it.
Dude, they're the
It
best.
was a good find.
Bada bing, I got the same ones.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
How about now?
Perfect, perfect, awesome.
So, I always thought the protests were stupid. Like, you're not changing shit. So for me, it's like, it's gonna, you got to make it worth it for me to leave my house with my dogs. Um, but I always thought the protests were stupid for the simple fact that you could easily be photographed next to one of these idiots that's literally saying gas the Jews and stuff like that. And you'd be an idiot to think that they don't have authorities out there, looking at you, monitoring you. And I told people that, but they still went to protests anyway, but I never went. But I would see the behavior coming out of these protests, and they're just like, you can't believe that this is what you're part of. And you spend so much time suppressing these feelings of like embarrassment or shame. And you think like, oh, I can just do this forever. But I mean, and maybe you can, but you will get to the point where you are choosing this cause over whatever is left of your humanity. It is as simple as that. Because if
Mhm.
you can justify rape or deny rape, if you can justify the stuff that occurred, you know what? Let's not even use October 7th as an example. I'll go back a little bit further. Okay. If you can look at what happened to the Fogel family in Itamar
Mhm.
in the West Bank in, I think, 2012 or 2013, for those who don't know, a Palestinian terrorist snuck into a Jewish family's home in the West Bank, slaughtered the parents, killed the kids, and one of the kids was like a 9-month-old baby. Um, I remember, like, dude, like I was so shocked by that. I was horrified. There was one of the times that I actually did post something about it, and I was like, this is disgusting. This is horrific. And I remember I got so much shit about that from my Arab Muslim friends at the time. Um, Probably lost a few friends back then too, because they're that just extreme. And it's not extreme that they say like, oh, that baby deserved it. No, they're going to deny it. They're going to say, oh, the Jews did it. Like I know that's going to be their typical response. It's the same reaction where if you bring up Hebron right now to somebody in the territories run by the Palestinian Authority or Gaza, they'll tell you the Jews did it to themselves in Hebron. Um, and so I can't like I just remember feeling extremely like sort of dead behind the eyes. Like I said, it was that choice. Whatever's left of your humanity or this cause. And so I sort of silently walked out in May. Okay. And I remember in May taking down Free Palestine from my bio. I took down literally every single post that I had made. And it was a lot. Um, but I thought I would just exit this realm of politics entirely. Like I'd just be like be completely uninvolved. I used to be, and I'm still sort of am envious of people who can be completely uninvolved and like have like like no feelings about it. Like they just don't care. I do envy those people because like for me, it's like I can't not care. I really can't. Like first off, as an Egyptian, it's literally right there next to us, you know? But so I thought that, all right, I'll just be this basic two-state solution. Everybody just both sides are equally at fault and all this crap. That lasted for about 3 weeks. Um, I remember like when Noah Argamani was rescued, I was at the gym and I pick up my phone and I look at it says, Noah Argamani rescued. And I was like, this is awesome. This is great. One of the hostages rescued. In my mind, this is all right. This is maybe it's a tiny step, but it's one step closer to this war ending. Naive me. Um, but the thing is, my enthusiasm for her being rescued was immediately met with severe anger on my part because even though I had sort of quietly checked out of the pro-Palestine movement, all my social circle was still, Arab and Muslim. And so the propaganda, like I would still see the same propaganda, just didn't have an effect on me. And I remember there was this Palestinian comedian named Sami Obeid, and he made a post that said, um, if I'm ever held hostage somewhere and you have to kill X amount of people to get to me, just leave me there. Don't bother saving me. And I was like, get the fuck out of here, kid. You insincere, dishonest piece of shit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself with that. If I'm held hostage,
Especially if the people imagine they're Israelis. He was kidnapped by Israelis and
oh,
as if
dude,
he doesn't
imagine
want them to die anyway, as if he doesn't want them to die anyway. But suddenly when he's kidnapped in there and put in their city, now don't kill them.
listen, I'm a dog lover.
What's funny is that so many of so much of the Arab world wants to see Israelis dead anyway, let alone if hostages of let alone if their own hostages were taken. It's to quickly interject here, like when I hear Andrew Tate making a point, he was on some podcast and he goes, what do you expect them to do to 70 years of resistance? And I'm like, homie, you're a fucking the only reason you haven't slaughtered a whole nation just for the fun of it is because you're not in the seat to do so. But if somebody took this guy's child, if someone took in, because Andrew Tate does have some kids, somebody took his daughter, if Hamas kidnapped his daughter, the dude would be like, kill all of them, slaughter them all, slaughter all of them. He'd
It's a
kill.
genocide, isn't it?
I don't care if it's a genocide, schmenocide. I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm overdoing his British accent, dude. Most people sitting in their comfortable chairs, keyboard warrioring, they might not have the ability to go and wage war. Most of them wouldn't, but they sure as hell would give permission for somebody else to do it on their behalf, even if it meant 50,000, 100,000 deaths, 200,000 deaths. They'd press that red button and they'd do anything they could to get their kid back, and it's insane to me. And
If you don't think that the United States was willing to drop a third bomb on Japan, like, but yeah, what you're saying is, listen, I mean, forget humans. If my dog was kidnapped, oh, dude, I'd burn down my neighborhood. I'd
yeah,
burn down the world to get
most
me
people,
back.
dude, most people would. Most people would.
And
We like to ignore it. The world holds Jews in Israel to a standard that they don't hold anyone else to. It's like you killed 50,000 people. Have you seen every other war in history? Have you looked at have you looked at World War I and World War II? Have you looked at any major Arab conflict? Have you looked at America's wars against their enemies? People don't like to see death. Everything's televised nowadays. People can't handle seeing. It's a shame. No one likes to see dead people. Well, depending on who they are. I don't mind seeing dead Hamas members or anything like that.
right.
But no, I don't like to see dead Gazan civilians, even the ones who hate me. I prefer if they weren't to be killed and we could make things work. But this idea that Israel's supposed to wage a war without killing civilians, the idea that Israelis are supposed to have this robotic view of not thinking in a vengeful way, not having the human conscience to say you took 250 of my family members and I shouldn't have the desire to respond to it. The idea that sure the Gazans, Israel is bombing Gaza, is doing what they can to get the civilians, is doing what they can to defeat the Gazans, because realistically, it's not Hamas. I'd love for you to listen to my recent episode with this woman, Einat,
And
former
that will.
Knesset, Einat Wolf. You know who she is?
Oh, dude.
Oh, you have a book of hers.
Both these. Oh man, if Inat Wolf is listening, she
Oh my God.
she
Oh, I
was
love that.
she, she had an enormous effect on me.
Did you
Um,
see? Did you see my latest episode is with her?
I haven't seen it. I'm gonna see it because I watch everything that she is featured in. So I'm absolutely gonna watch yours with her.
Ah, fantastic, bro. I'm so happy. It was a phenomenal episode. Dude,
Yeah,
that woman is wow.
brilliant,
Absolutely
brilliant.
brilliant.
And yeah, I mean, I'm sure she has said the same thing to you that she said elsewhere is that, you know, Palestinianism needs to be defeated. And
Hmm.
when Biden went to Israel immediately following October 7th and said that Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people, that was a horrible thing to say. And when
Hmm.
Inat Wilkes said that we're going to pay dearly for this statement, she was not lying. Because realistically, Hamas represents the most authentic desire of the Palestinian people. They did exactly what they would do to try to free Palestine, period.
100%. 100%. No, we also have to accept the reality that this was their attempt and stop sugarcoating it. This was the Palestinian attempt to take over Israel. And we have to be very realistic about this. We like to live in a sugar-coated world. We're human beings are animals. We will do very savage things to get what we want. And like I told her, I said a huge onus is on the Jewish state, is on Israel and the Jews, that for 77 years we were trying to push the idea of a two-state solution, which was never going to work. And the Arabs have been telling us time and time again what they want, and we chose not to listen. And Anat was saying this too. We just kept saying no. We're closing our ears to it. You don't want to get rid of
Mhm.
us. You don't want to eradicate us. Let's make it work. And they kept saying no. We're not interested in these ideas. We're not going to agree to them. And we kept saying, look, we kept saying to the West, look, we offered two states, and they said no. Of course, they're saying no. They're going to continue to say no until the end of time. If we are to allow any of them to stay in the land, they have to accept it's Jewish ruled land. Not just the fact that Jews live in it, the Jews rule it. And if we are to ever have peace, the Jews of Israel, first and foremost, have to say, we rule it now. We plan on ruling it for as long as time allows, for until the Messiah comes or whatever it is. We rule it now. You've been fighting a losing battle for 77 years. You're likely going to continue to lose because as time goes on, we get more and more powerful. The power shift, the power gap gets wider and wider because Israel knows that it has to continue to stay 5 steps ahead of its enemies, and it is many more steps than five above the Gazans, light
It's
years
like
ahead.
it's
So,
like
so
five with the exponent of a million.
I mean, dude, the fact that I have this Kareem guy going like, "Oh, Israel didn't defeat Hamas." Israel could wipe the floor with Gaza in a minute, like in maybe 3 minutes. Like all they do is fly jets over Gaza. Yeah, they would have to give up on their remaining hostages. Literally, would just wipe it out in minutes. They come from the jets could just fly over Gaza, drop bombs, boom, everyone's dead. It would take 5 minutes. It would take
It's
5 minutes.
funny you say this. It's funny you say this because um,
I'm
one
not,
guy.
by the way, I want to be clear. That's not what I want. Meaning, it's not in an ideal world if we don't do that and they can actually live next to us as Gazans and just stop trying to defeat us. For fuck's sake, get it through their heads, whether they like it or not, that it's not going to happen, then we can live with them. But if they keep thinking, they keep trying to defeat us and then crying that we're kicking their asses, it's like, dude, at some point, just admit
Stay down.
defeat. Just admit the defeat, man. And they can't do it because it's such, they have this pride. They can't
Yeah.
do it. It's like, I get it. And from a human age, I get it. And in a weird way, I even respect it's like these people don't let up. But it's also to a large degree that the Israeli governments continue to embolden those beliefs. They continue to say, "We'll
Yeah.
give you Gaza,
Yeah.
we'll give you this, and we'll give you." And they're like, "Okay, okay, Jews, if our violence against you is going to if it's going to be met with some kind of agreement or some kind of gift, so to speak, well, why the hell wouldn't we continue this fight? You'll give it one day. You'll give us parts of Judea and Samaria. You gave us Gaza. You gave Egyptians the Sinai. Maybe if you'll keep giving, even if we get tiny little crumbs over the course of time, before we know it, we'll have the whole thing."
That's exactly how they think. It goes back to what Annette Wilf says too. You know, they need to feel exactly like how the Germans and the Japanese felt after World War II. They understood in no uncertain terms they were the losers of this conflict. You have like lost by every metric possible. But the problem is that the world, and this is I am quote robbing Annette Wilf today like no other. She says the world always acts to prevent a complete Israeli victory, and the world simultaneously acts to prevent a complete Arab defeat.
Oh, so
Because
true. So
we
true.
the world can't help themselves but massage the fragile egos of the Arabs and Muslims, and like then you go into their UNRWA curriculum and these kids are being taught that this Zionist entity, what they call it, is an aberration. Eventually you're going to win. And if you're taught that
Mhm.
from when you're like 5 years old and you grow up to be in your 20s or 30s, why would you expect anything different? Like looking back now, yeah, it's not surprising most of my friends thought that way, because I bet you some of their parents went to UNRWA schools and they passed off their education, their belief system to their kids. And even outside of UNRWA, it's not like the Palestinians are really much more moderate, or the Arabs in general. It's a cesspool of extremism because it's
Mhm.
so normalized. And listen, what you say about you guys wish you guys could have an arrangement, make things work out and everything. And I'm sure you think you don't even have to like me. I don't care if you hate me. Just, hate me from your side of the country, Like just
100%.
don't attack me. 90% of Israelis that I come across feel exactly the way you do.
Mhm.
Some of them are more after the, brotherly love, friendly neighbor
I
relations,
don't give a shit if they. I don't give
but
a shit if they like me. That's not the
but
goal. Yeah.
most just, hey, I don't give a fuck if you hate me. Just stop attacking me. Leave me alone. And sort of like a perfect microcosm of this um is so during the 6 Day War, okay? After Jordan had signed like a defense treaty with Nasser in Egypt. Israel signaled to Jordan is like, hey man, we're really not trying to come after your stuff. So just stay out, okay? Please, like don't, because we're really not trying to go to war with you. And then, Israel went and launched its preemptive strike, fully justified, because before that, Nasser closed the Straits of Tiran, so that was the casus belli. Um, but then Nasser went and lied to King Hussein and Jordan. It's like, oh, we're winning. Meanwhile, the Egyptian Air Force got like literally wiped out within like
Mhm.
2 minutes. But he's telling the Jordanian king, hey, we're winning. And so Jordanian and I think even Iraqi started shelling Netanya and Tel Aviv, like civilian areas. Like these are civilian areas that they're shelling. And Israel sent a warning to Hussein. I was like, hey, we're not trying to go to war with you. Stop. Okay? Like it's gonna end really bad for you if you keep doing this. And King Hussein replied with, the die is cast. Does that sound like an expansionist country to you? Like keep in mind, like, for those who are not privy to the Middle East, Judea and Samaria was occupied by Jordan for
Mhm.
nearly 20 years. It was also illegal. It was also an illegal occupation that nobody recognized, except for the British. Okay, and they completely ethnically cleansed the entire Jewish population from there. They desecrated Jewish cemeteries. They wouldn't allow Jewish people to visit the holy city. And when I say it was also an illegal occupation, I don't mean also in reference to, the Israeli presence in Judea and Samaria. I just mean that, like, you know, what they consider to be an illegal Israeli occupation, like Jordanians were literally in the West Bank for nearly 20 years, and nobody ever cried about it.
Right.
And the Jordanians are literally Hijazi Arabs from, modern day Saudi Arabia implanted into the Levant.
Hashemite Kingdom. So okay, so you were talking about the war.
The 6 Day War.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, Israel, because that's not the trait of a country that would try to, expand past its borders. You know, um, for another example, in Lebanon, okay, southern Lebanon, Israel was in southern Lebanon for, I think, like 15 years. Never built a single settlement. Gave back the Sinai, which I think is bigger than Israel, like
Twice the size of Israel.
twice the size of Israel. Gave it back to the Egyptians. What did the Israelis get in return? A piece of paper. Like, we're being honest about it. Israelis got a piece of paper in return. Yeah, they got peace,
Yeah.
but you know, um,
I'll be honest. I don't think that was the smartest move on Israel. It got us peace to some degree, but it. I think we could have achieved it. Einat says this too. We could have achieved it without giving it back. Um,
mhm.
I actually think the biggest way, very simply, the biggest way to achieve peace in the Middle East, especially as Jews, is to be very, very tough and unapologetic. Might is right in the Middle East, showing absolute dominance, showing that you're smarter, more capable, faster, stronger. Uh, they Arabs will love you by respecting you. And I would even say that when Israel won its earlier wars, the 6 Day War was just a sweep. It was just an absolute ass kicking. It was a
Mhm.
fisting, is what it was. And the world was enamored by it. The world said, "Wow, dude, these Jews are
Yeah,
just something else." And I was told by people I know that served in those wars that you could have an Israeli idea, like a girl idea, a female IDF soldier, just walk through an Arab village by herself. Nobody would do anything. People were just like, "Holy cow, these people!" But then the Israeli government just started to get soft, and they started to give in and appease and apologize. Well, it started to exhaust them, and
yeah,
they forgot that as long as Jews have this country, we're likely going to have to fight for it. Hopefully, after the wars we're dealing with now, we can really weaken Iran to the point where they can't attack us, do anything significant. Israel needs to show their enemies that you're not winning this. We're not going anywhere. We're not French colonizers. We're not the British. We're Jews living in Israel. We're Jews living in Judea. You're not taking it from us. We'll fist you just like we did in the earlier wars, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. This is the message that has to be sent home. Period. End of story.
no lube,
No lube, dude. Lubeless fisting.
no
Sorry
lube.
for the graphics, guys, but
It's all
there's
good.
nothing else I could. Whether it's a foot or a fist, whether it's both at the same time. Um,
Listen, man, I agree. I think one of the worst decisions that Israel made was because Israelis immediately after winning the 6 Day War offered the territory back for
mhm,
peace,
mhm.
and then the Arabs, being the idiots that they were at the time, went to Khartoum and said three no's. And then Moshe Dayan, thought the best thing to do was to hand over the Temple Mount to the Jordanian Waqf, even after the 6 Day War. That was the time to absolutely put your boots on their necks
Yeah.
and make them beg for mercy.
Mhm.
Because that is, like, you have to be strong in the Middle East. You can't be anything less. Um,
This has been our mistake. This has been Israel's mistake, and I would say the Jews' mistake because we were dhimmis, we were second class in the Arab world, we were second class in Europe. Now we had times of prosperity in both regions, but we were used to being uh, at the whim, at the submission of our host countries for thousands of years. And I think even for us, a victory felt foreign to us. Wait a minute, what? We rule something now? We have sovereignty and we have the ability to make our own decisions. Uh, I think it was just so foreign to us. We started to immediately be like, "We're sorry for winning. We didn't even think it was going to happen. So sorry, guys. Thanks for giving us this win." It's like, no, you're looking at this incorrectly.
You know, I do notice that is that um I think I've actually heard a Jewish person say it too, is like Jews are still sort of uncomfortable with power. Like it's because they were not viewed as equals for so long. They didn't have sovereignty in their own land for so long. They were always second class citizens somewhere. Like it felt almost unnatural for them to have this newfound strength, like a military that can
Right.
effectively defend your people. And you know who Miss Rachel is, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't stand her, right? But
Yeah.
every now and then I check her comments because you can get sort of like a pulse of her audience. And every now and then I'll see a comment that goes like, as a Jewish mom, I am equally disgusted about what Netanyahu and these. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I'm just like, those are the comments that actually make me the most upset. It's because in the same comment thread, by the way, in the
Take
same
that kid.
comment
By
thread.
the way, take that Jewish mom's child away from her. Put her in a tunnel. See how quickly her mindset changes.
Oh, I would hope so. I would hope so. If your mind doesn't change, you're a shitty parent.
Ah, yeah. Take that mother's child away from her. See how quickly that viewpoint changes. And now she might not be the person that's going to go in with guns blazing, but she sure as hell would give me the green light to do it.
And then there
Guaranteed.
was this, then there was this other guy who put up a video like as an appeal to Mamdani, Zohar Mamdani. He said like, I'm an Arab Jew. I'm just like you. I'm like, bro, you're not an Arab Jew, and you're nothing like Zohar Mamdani. Stop.
But who
Don't
said
ever
this?
use it. I'd have to find the post and send it to you. I can't remember the dude's name. He's an actor
Hmm.
though. He identified himself as an Arab Jew, and um, he's like, he's trying to like make this reel that appeals to Zohar Mamdani. I guess he is. He is. I think he does have a genuine concern, but it's
Mm.
too like you got to be tough, bro. You can't be soft with these people. You think just because Zohran smiles and he went to a pride festival that he wouldn't do exactly what Hamas did to you if he had the chance? Of course he would. But there is this almost suicidal altruism within the Jewish people. And
100%. 100%. We have a big issue with that, man. We really do. It's really not a good. Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
big.
you saw it. You saw it on October 7th. Those people who lived in the kibbutzim along the Gaza envelope. These are the most left-wing idyllic Israelis that if you're a
Mm.
pro peace seeking Palestinian, these are people who you would want to be as your neighbors, you know? They were
Mhm.
bringing you motherfuckers in for medical attention and work, and they even had like a little fund to take care of you guys if something happened. Like it's insane. And these
But
same
it never
people
mattered. You
came
see the.
butchered
You
them.
see. You see. You know what though? I look at it on more. I see the bigger picture though. They appreciated the help because it helped to get them further along. It helped further their goal. They were useful idiots. They never maybe they could have been friends with them if you had 100 Gazans and 100 people from these kibbutzim and they lived in the Netherlands and they weren't involved in the conflict, maybe some of them could have coffee together and be friendly. But as long as they found themselves in this area in this conflict, they said no. These are the soft, kind Israelis that we can take advantage of. That we can exploit, and there's no genuine love for them. They can help further our goal in breaking through and conquering. And once we get through, we're going to run right over them to get to the others. But who they actually respect, who the Gazans actually respect, are the Israelis that understand their way of thinking and don't allow them to do what they want to do. It's not
Simply.
like, oh, but the kibbutzniks are like, oh, but they love us. It's like, homie, they love you because you're falling for it. They
Yeah,
don't love you because they actually love you.
listen, man, the higher echelons of the Egyptian government during the 70s, the people who they respected were people like Moshe Dayan and Ariel Sharon.
Mhm.
They'll never say that out loud, but those were the people who they respected because they were tough and they were unwavering in their position. And just to go a little bit even further than that, let's visit Hebron 1929. Okay, those
Yeah.
the Jewish people, the Jewish community of Hebron at the time, like it didn't have to turn out the way it did, okay? But the Jewish people of Hebron considered the Arabs, these are our neighbors, these are our friends, we take care of them, we do this and that for them. They even rejected the assistance of the Haganah when a representative of the Haganah went to the Jewish community of Hebron and said, we have a feeling that something terrible is about to happen. We want to protect you. You guys have zero protection. And obviously, the British literally let the Arabs do whatever the fuck they wanted this entire
Mhm.
time. And they said no. They said no. And so, yeah, man, it's so sad to me because I don't want to be that person that tells another person, hey, don't be kind, don't be humane, but you can't be kind to the cruel. You
Yeah,
can't be humane to the inhumane. It's always going to end bad for you. And the people who are kind to the cruel end up being cruel to the kind.
100%. 100%. Yeah, man. I was watching it's a great show. They have a few I'm not even such a I'm not a big movie guy these days, but I was watching this show. It's a Western, 1929. They have like three series, 1883, 1929, and Yellowstone. So I haven't gotten to Yellowstone yet. 1920, no, 1923. 1923 has two seasons, 1883 has one season, and Yellowstone, I think, is five. But 1923 was phenomenal. And one thing that I noticed throughout the show is that it shows you how being ruthless is often necessary. Like having the ability to be ruthless prevents your enemy from being able to hurt you and the people you love, and as a
Yeah.
fundamental importance. And it showed examples of men who were kind and had control, who were kind to the people around them, but had the ability to do very violent things. And then you had other men in that same community or tribe who didn't have the ability to be ruthless, and so they were essentially useless. And it just showed it really brought that out. It really brought out that point. So
Like Annette Wilf says, um, you can you can do things that make you feel good, or you can do good. Doing things that
right.
make you doing things that make you feel good, these are fleeting. It's easy. It doesn't take a lot of effort. But sometimes doing good things means you have to do things that feel unpleasant.
100%. 100%. A lot of these conversations are very easy. I mean, it's easy for some people to misconstrue them. I do think that they're very hard to argue, though. They're very hard to argue. I've had multiple debates with people. I've yet to lose one. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping to get on some of these really big shows. I want to get on trigonometry. I hope I can get on Joe Rogan one day. I want to get on Piers Morgan. I think Piers Morgan is a little. Yeah, he's a bit of a grifter, and he doesn't. I don't really think he cares much. He just wants the views. For him, it's
Yeah,
entertainment. I don't think
absolutely.
I don't. His heart's not really in it. He's
Yeah.
just he found a platform to
Mhm.
to just have a bunch of people yell at each other. So just a finishing point, and if there's anything else you wanted to add, feel free. But I just wanted to say that it really takes a lot of balls to completely switch your way of thinking, and I really appreciate you being an advocate. I know that you're advocating not just for Jews in Israel, but you're advocating for the free world, for a non-extremist, peaceful world where we can hopefully get along for the most part. And it takes a lot, man. It's not an easy thing to do. So I thank you for that.
It's not easy, but you know what? It's a privilege and an honor to do this. It really is. And the somebody asked me a a couple days ago. This is my friend. She asked me, "What's my favorite thing about being a Zionist?" I never have to lie. I never have to suspend my intelligence, my integrity, my humanity to be a Zionist. Being a Zionist doesn't contradict anything that I already am. Even if you're an
Mhm.
Arab Muslim, being a Zionist doesn't contradict your being an Arab, doesn't contradict you being a Muslim. Um, I never have to lie, and I have the room to make mistakes. I have the room to be wrong, but I never have to lie. The facts, the history, the archaeology, it's on the Zionist side. And, it's just that's an amazing part of this is that I knew I had to lie so many times to push the Palestinian narrative.
It's amazing. Wouldn't you? What's your but playing devil's advocate? Because you said being a Zionist doesn't contradict being Muslim. That doesn't it though?
No, no, I mean, it depends on how, strict of a Muslim you are and what you interpret it as. But I mean, I never heard Palestine mentioned in the Quran.
Hmm.
I heard Beni Israel many, many times,
Right.
you know? And no, it doesn't, I don't think it has to contradict you being Muslim unless you take that passage where it says, the final hour will not come until the Muslims slaughter the Jews, and you take that very, very seriously, then yeah. But I like to look at Muslims like Loai Sharif and the ones that are doing Israel advocacy, and I'd like to think that maybe one day we can have more of those people. If Islam gives you peace, it provides comfort to you, and you can be a decent person and accept the Jews and their ancestral homeland, I really don't have a problem with you because you're probably not an extremist
Yeah.
by that point.
Yeah. No, I think that's very doable. If dude, if the majority of Palestinians thought like Loai, we would be in a really good place. And honestly, man, I think it's possible. Listen, it's very painful for Gazans to lose entire families. I understand from a human perspective how they're not gonna blame their own people. They're gonna, you know, in this war, Israel likely created a lot more Hamas-like members. It's an inevitable reality that we couldn't avoid. It is. It is what it is.
It is.
There at some
And
point, even if you lost your entire family and you want to slaughter every Israeli and every Jew, you're going to have to make a decision. Like at some point, they're going to have to make a decision. These kids are going to grow up. They're going to want to slaughter the entirety of the Jewish people. They're going to have to make a decision though, because if they're going to die, their kids are going to die, their kids are going to die. They're going to have to make a decision at some point.
have you read One Jewish State by David Friedman?
I haven't.
That to me is my blueprint for what a real peaceful solution looks like. It doesn't, there is no Palestinian state because it doesn't involve one. It's
Hmm.
one Jewish state from the river to the sea. I'm not saying I agree with every little aspect of it, but we really need to put this Palestinian shit to bed.
100%, 100. That's why I say Israel needs to gain complete sovereignty over Gaza and Judea and Samaria. First of all, stop calling it the West Bank. That the
Correct.
title in general needs to go away. Um, it's Judea and Samaria. That's what it should be called entirely. And and if the Arabs, if they want to call themselves Palestinians, say Lavi, whatever makes you happy. The Arabs living in Israel that do not have citizenship, the Gazans and the Judean and Sumerian Arabs,
Hmm.
they need to come to a realization that there is no Palestinian state, never was one, never will be. They want
Hmm.
to live in the land, they can live in the land, they can have their towns, they can have local governance. This is what I believe. They have a tribal leader of each of these towns. The Israeli government and Israeli military rule over all of it. Um, I don't believe in making them citizens, but making them residents because we can't have a majority Arab or even close to that number of Arab citizens because it has to be a majority Jewish state. It has to be. And so, if they're willing to actually live that way, whether they love us or not, but they understand that this is the reality, and they have the choice: either live in this reality, will give you freedoms like the Israeli Arabs do, the Israeli Arabs with citizenship have. You can have a similar thing. You may not have citizenship, you have residency, or you fuck off. That's it. Or you find
Yeah,
somewhere else to go. You don't like it, too fucking bad.
exactly, exactly. Listen, you
We
got to treat them like Puerto Ricans. You got to
we
treat them like
we
Puerto
will
Rico.
give you a much better life than you gave us under 1,500 years of rule in your countries. You won't have to wear a star, a Muslim symbol on your shirt. You don't have to ride a horse sideways. You could build your mosque as high as you want. You can wear a hijab, not wear a hijab. You could be gay. You could be straight. You could be trans. You could dress as a leopard. You can drink alcohol. You could not drink alcohol. You could say fuck this government minister, whoever. You have more freedoms than you would under your own rule. Enough
Mhm.
already. This is what it has to be. This is what it has to be. You
Yeah,
either like it or you go somewhere else. Period.
exactly. And that wasn't such a controversial opinion, before World War II. Even immediately following World War II, that wasn't a very controversial opinion. But now, because we got the leftist idiots running things now, so yeah.
But I think the more people like myself that make these very like direct, clear statements, and it is slowly spread out to the Arab world and Palestinian, Arabs living in Nablus and Hebron, because some of them do speak English. There's a growing number of them as time progresses. They're on social media, they're learning English. If 10 of them are hearing what I'm saying, there's a guy, Ahmed and Karim and whoever that are hearing me living in Hebron right now, living in Bethlehem, literally listening to me saying what I'm saying, and it's starting to register in their brains and it's starting to trickle in little by little. They keep hearing it and they're like, you know what? If I'm going to stay in this place, I'm going to have to come to this realization at some point.
Hmm.
This is what it has to be. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. You want
You
Palestine, you're not getting Palestine. You want to be a Palestinian, you want to be a Palestinian, the identity is important to you, fine. Sit, fine. Enjoy it. You're not getting a state. You're okay with that? Stay. You're not okay with that? Fuck off to England. That's it.
straight up, straight up. No, I have to tell you, man, that like your message, like there needs to be more of that because people need to understand that the only way you defeat this is by grabbing it by the throat and ragdolling this shit. So I just want to tell you that I appreciate you amplifying Jewish strength because that needs to be at the forefront.
I appreciate that, man. It's so clear, dude. It's so clear. It's so
100%.
abundantly clear. All right. Well, Coptic Kapara, I appreciate you. Toda rabah. You're the
I
man.
appreciate you, bro.
Ladies and gents, I look forward to meeting you at some point.
Absolutely. I'll be
Definitely.
in, you'll see me in Florida at some point. Absolutely.
Oh,
So,
dude, we gotta
and I
chill.
love
We gotta
Miami.
chill next time.
So
Come by, bro. Come hang out for sure.
I will. I will.
Uh, all right. So and you're welcome to even stay by me, man. My pleasure. I have a couch. Got a nice
Bro,
apartment. You're more than welcome to crash.
bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode 223 of the Soothing Semantics podcast. Like, subscribe, and share. Leave your comments. You can follow. You can also support the show with the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. It would really, really make a difference to me and what I'm doing. You can follow. You can follow Mike at what are you, Coptic Zionists?
Coptic Kapara 0548.
Yes, and your social media will also be in the description. All your stuff. I literally have Jet. By the way, it's amazing for my YouTube channel. I only started doing this a few weeks ago, like a dumbass.
Oh,
I
really?
I got ChatGPT. I asked him to optimize my title, my description. I know it's ridiculous. I've been doing this for 4 years. I was kind of just winging it until now. And so it just drops all of it just grabs all your social media links. It puts them together for me. I just have to copy it and put it in the description. I know it's like everyone knows this but me, but I wasn't
Oh, it's perfect.
implementing it. I wasn't implementing it until now, and it's I'm seeing my videos now, like a bunch of my videos now are getting better engagement, and I'm like, so
All
anyway,
right, you gotta tell me how to do that. So
oh, for sure, no, I will. It's
yeah,
like it's insane what ChatGPT could do. It's like it's mind blowing.
yeah.
Yes. So guys, thanks again. If there's anything you want to drop in, anything you want, please, like, and you can advertise at your one of your businesses, a book you want to write, whatever it is, or any closing messages. Go ahead.
I'm Yisrael Chai.
Love it, man.
That's my closing message.
Okay, fantastic. Guys, thank you again for joining. I will see you in the next one. Peace.